right.
We are back, folks.
10 minutes to the top of the hour.
Yes.
Who else thinks that we are 70,000 people who could care less about where we're going and where we've been?
Give us a call, 219-885-1371. And Rev, well, some people ended up with disaster, but for the most part, most people averted disaster as the CDC issued the eviction moratorium on order in areas of substantial and high transmission. So they've given them 60 days. The CDC director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, she signed an order determining that the eviction of tenants for failure to make rents or housing payments could be detrimental to public health control measures to slow the spread of COVID-19. The Biden administration could have done something about it earlier, but they let it lapse. And this just shows you how bizarre Washington, D.C. is, because everybody ended up being really peed off about this. Ro Khanna said that he felt like some of his fellow Democrats let the eviction moratorium let it expire on purpose because they're in the pocket. I'll let him speak for himself.
I do want to ask you, by the way, on another subject, another story out of Capitol Hill that's moving, which is this push to address the end of the eviction moratorium that is going to end very, very soon. There had been a push, didn't succeed in the House, and there seems to be some frustration with your party's leadership for trying to kind of wedge this in to get this done now. What do you make of this in terms of how this has gone and what perhaps should be done to deal with evictions? A lot of people, millions of Americans potentially, are going to be upended when this moratorium lapses.
Joshua, I'm just going to be blunt. There's more than frustration. There is outrage at what happened today. Cori Bush, who has been unhoused, spoke so eloquently about why we need to extend the moratorium so people aren't coming week, kicked out of their homes. Maxine Waters had a bill to extend it. We said we could extend it, if not till the end of the year, at least a few months. And the leadership has refused to bring it for a vote. And the reason they're not bringing it for a vote is that some Democrats privately have tried to kill this bill because of special interests of realtors and other groups. And it's unconscionable that we don't have a vote on the House floor, that we're protecting some members to kill this behind closed doors and aren't being transparent. It's just wrong.
Yeah, so he was pissed off about it. I mean, angry about it. AOC had a lot to say about it. She was.
Everybody knew this was coming. Yes. We were sounding the alarm about this issue. The court order was not yesterday. The court order was not Monday. Court order was about a month ago. We had financial services hearings about it. Members were ringing alarms to the administration about it. There have been public statements about it, asking for all of us, White House and Congress, to move on this sooner. The fact that this statement came out just yesterday is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. I want to make that very clear, because the excuses that we've been hearing about it, I do not accept them. But secondly, what we have here, and we have members within our own caucus threatening to go on vacation and imperiling the lives of millions of people, is unacceptable.
Well, who threatened to go on vacation? Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi threatened to go on vacation and went on vacation. She, at the last minute, demanded a unanimous consent vote to expand the moratorium. She couldn't get it, so she said, forget it, I tried. She said, forget it, I tried, and went on vacation. And, you know, it's so hilarious. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not hilarious. Millions of people's lives will be upended by being evicted. There were some court orders that were waiting for on Saturday to start letting people throw people out of their homes. So it is not funny, but it does show you that you get all these people who every election cycle say, you know, if you don't vote for the Democrats, then we're all going to die. You know, how could you vote for the Republicans? How could you not vote? How could you vote third party? How could you do anything other than vote for this one party that does all the good in the world while the other party does all the bad in the world? And that's just not how it is. As AOC said, and Ro Khanna said there's people within their own party, a lot of people within their own party, who did not want to expand the rent moratorium. And it's not because, oh, well, we just think it's not what's best for the economy. These people are paid by the homeowners associations and all these other people. These people get corporate money to maintain the status quo. This is what I always tell you every 4 years whenever I tell you I'm voting third party. So I'm not really surprised by this whatsoever. But I will give all the props in the world to Cori Bush. Cori Bush is the reason that millions of people still have somewhere to sleep tonight, because she actually slept outside. This woman, this black woman, slept outside the steps of the Capitol building in protest until the Biden administration and the CDC figured it out. And so, even though there are some bad actors, I will give AOC and her squad members, who I can be a little bit critical of sometimes, their props here. Cori Bush especially, she walked it like she talked it. But what I wanted to talk about, Rev, the great Nancy Pelosi, okay? And so I was wondering just how rich Nancy Pelosi is.
Oh,
how rich is Nancy Pelosi?
Wealthy.
Oh yes, oh yes.
I mean, to live in California, you can't be broke and live in California.
You cannot. She is the 6th richest member of Congress, Rev. As of 2019, she had seen her personal wealth increase to nearly $115 million from 41 million. Like, she was worth $41 million in 2004. Now she's worth 115 million. I forgot who said it. Nobody gets rich in politics unless you're a crook. Now, her and her husband, Paul, keep getting richer and richer. Much of their added wealth is due to extremely lucrative and lucky decisions when it comes time to buy and sell stocks and options in the very industries in which Mrs. Pelosi, the House Speaker, exercises enormous and direct influence. The sector in which she most frequently buys and sells stocks is in Silicon Valley, where she's at out there in the Bay Area.
Right.
Close to 75% of their stock trading over the past few years has been in big tech. More than $33 million worth of trading. This has happened while major...
this is where she lives.
Right. This is happening while major legislation is pending before the House, controlled by the committees that she oversees, which could radically reshape the industry and the laws that govern the very companies in which she trades.
Wait a minute.
Like Apple.
Wait a minute.
Apple.
What are you saying here, Brother Scott? Are you suggesting that Congresswoman Pelosi, living in Silicon Valley,
yes,
having to interact with the movers and shakers,
yes,
that she might have information that enables her to get lucky?
Oh yes,
when she goes to her Robin Hood portfolio
absolutely account. Yeah. I'm sure she's with Robin Hood. I'm sure she signed up to Robin Hood. The company that they trade the most, Apple, which accounts for 17% of their overall trading volume. She's had at least a few private conversations with Tim Cook about the state of Apple and the possible effects of the companies. Now, I didn't want to just pick on Nancy because she's not by herself and being like out and out loaded in our Congress. She's not even the richest member of Congress, even though she's worth 100.
She's the 6th richest.
Yes, the 6th richest. Greg Gianforte, who is a Republican from Montana, he's also made a lot of wealth through a software company. Later sold to McAfee. So he's a Republican. Mark Warner I didn't know Mark Warner was this rich. Mark Warner, who's a Democrat, is worth over $100 million. He's a Democrat. Michael McCall is worth $113 million. He's actually, his wife's father founded Clear Channel Communications. So that goes back to the Telecommunications Act that we always talk about here, that Clinton signed, where Clear Channel started off at 40 stations in the mid 90s, and now they have, they ended up with 1,200 by 2002. Now I think they have a few hundred, if I'm not mistaken, 800 or something. They don't have as many as they had 20 years ago, but they scaled back some. But you see these people, all these people who are supposed to be representing the people. Like, you're not supposed to get rich, or even you're not even supposed to have the appearance of having conflicting interests when you're representing the people. But all of these people, so many of these people, Dianne Feinstein, another one. She's another one of the richest people in Congress, another California Democrat. She's married to Richard Bloom, who's an equity investment firm. Oh, let me make sure that this does not.
We are AM 1370.
That's okay. I mean, it is top of the hour.
It is the top of the hour, and they're gonna let us know every top of the hour. She owns her own stake in Carlton Hotels for over 25. These people own so much stock and so much property. I was thinking about this, Rep. Do you think it's even moral or ethical? I think that's the term I want to use. Ethical for these people to own stock while being in Congress?
Wow. Now I know that the president has to turn his stuff over to a blind trust.
Right.
But he's like full time. He's the president full time.
Right.
His house is in Washington D.C. You know, his work office is just in another wing of the house, and you know, that sort of thing. In a sense, our legislatures are supposed to be part timers.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, over the years, decades, you know, they've sort of slowly increased, you know, how they get compensated by the people who vote for them, to the point where if that's a part-time job, I'd love to have a part-time job like that too.
They make $174,000 a year.
And what is it? You serve, what is it, 12 years?
Well, in the House of Representatives, you run every 2 years.
But I mean, after you've done a certain amount of years, you can retire.
Oh yeah, 5. It's 5. It's 5. You get a pension after 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
The military doesn't have it that good. Man, who wouldn't want to run for? I understand why AOC ran for Congress.
Yeah, she's poor. I mean, she's making close to $200,000 a year now.
Yeah, all she got to do is win two elections, and she's set for life.
Yeah, she's good. They're all good. They're all pretty good.
Hey, no hate. I ain't throwing shade on you, Miss AOC, but let's get real.
Who you representing? That I mean, for me, that is a big issue that I have.
Well, I guess it would be, you know, when all this was originally set up, when they first set up the whole United States governing system, it was assumed that the people that would be in these offices would be landowners, would be people who were basically independently stable, settled.
Yeah.
So that they could make legislative decisions not based on self-interest.
But George Washington was worth the equivalent of $500 million.
Yeah. So he could make decisions without considering, you know, the bottom line of it, so to speak, because he was going to be fine regardless of how things went. But at the same time, when this thing was all set up, we didn't have political parties. It didn't take too long for us to form political parties. From 1787 to the 1800 presidential election, we already had 2 political parties established. Boom. Mm-hmm. So nothing is as it was envisioned originally. So having said that, I guess it would be reasonable to say that when you run for the U.S. Congress or the U.S. Senate, that just like the president,
hold on, caller,
has to put his assets in a blind trust, maybe you should have to also. Maybe your spouse should have to also, simply because the fact remains, whether you like it or not, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, that office puts you in a position to take advantage.
Absolutely.